Last night, I did a live stream. It was, I don't know, it was. I don't know if it was good or bad. It was fairly chaotic. I was sweating like a southern pastor. It was so hot out here on the porch. I had the lights on, so I had bugs all around me. I was getting eaten by mosquitoes. The internet cut out. I had to put it into two different halves. It was chaotic. It was a nice time. You know, I gave away the GNX tour merch that I promised in my previous video on Kendrick. So, like, you know, it was a good time. But what I really did was I focused on what I want to talk about today, which is the verse from Chains and Whips from the clips, just the Kendrick verse. Okay, but in that version, and I'll include a link to it down below, so if you want to watch the whole thing in its chaotic beauty, chaotic catastrophe, I don't know what you can call it, go ahead and watch it. But I spent a little too much time for my liking on the first half of this verse. I talk about how it fits into the context of this holy war that Kendrick Lamar has been fighting on behalf of hip-hop, and how essentially clips are now on his side as well. About the idea of Kendrick being a Trinity MC as opposed to a God MC. A God MC is what Rakim called himself. And it's a term Rakim himself is referenced in the first half of the verse. So I concluded the whole thing saying that this holy war was all to fight on behalf of people who respect the God MC and not the sixth God. People who respect the Son, the Savior, not Savior of Kendrick Lamar, and all people who are in service of the Holy Ghost, the Holy Spirit of hip-hop. But let's pare it down to just the gen run. The run of 13 or 14 words that have gen in it, G-E-N. Some people did mention, by the way, I want to get this out of the way, saying, Sky, you're clout chasing. Why are you talking about this? It's not even officially out. First of all, I'm not clout chasing. I do love talking about Kendrick Lamar, and I do get lots of views. But if you want to try to tell me, Sky, man, work on real hip-hop, check out my Chez Noir video coming out tomorrow. Okay, I'm doing lots of hip hop reviews. If you only check me to tell me I'm doing too much Kendrick Lamar stuff, then you're not watching my other stuff, which is cool. But anyways, there's lots of great hip hop happening. It's not just Kendrick, and I try to talk about as much of it as I can. But then as far as it being a leak, like, no, it's not. It's not a leak. This is a release. If the artists release something, if the artists themselves leak it, if Pharrell, Malice, and Pusha leak it, that's officially released. That's a part of the release schedule. This is, I would say, the greatest album rollout that I think I've ever seen. I mean, the amount of excitement that I am feeling for this album and that I'm seeing for this album for what should realistically be like, oh, yeah, no, that's cool. Oh, really? Clips is coming out with a new album? That's dope. Like, it should be there. This is like the Beatles coming back together. Somehow they managed to do that. So let's just pare it down to just this run. Just this gen run. Here's the little graphic I've created. I'm going to be sharing it with you all and discussing it in some detail. Now, some people said yesterday, and I've seen people online talk about how Kendrick is doing his Kendrick thing, which is tying together to hip-hop history, to his own history, and of course he is. Of course, this is a lot like the 2013 song Nostalgia, a Pusha T song, where Kendrick Lamar is there, and he does a run on the 10 sound. So this is the gen sound, and that's the 10 sound. And that's great, and that's cool, but this is way deeper. This is way deeper. What Kendrick Lamar is doing in 2024 is 2024 Kendrick Lamar has 2013 Kendrick Lamar wiped down. Okay, he is so much better, so much more evolved as a rapper, even though he was at such an elite level in 2013. This list that I have here of 13 to 14, depending on how you count it, gen rhymes, compare that to Nostalgia. Now, maybe you have Nostalgia, and you're thinking about this line, you're thinking, oh yeah, Kendrick, he rhymed the word 10, like, he didn't even do it 10 times. He barely did it 5. He did 6 total rhymes with 10, and 3 of them are just the word 10 itself. So realistically, that's 4 clever things. Now, the whole verse is clever. The whole thing is amazing. Quantum physics could never show you the world I was in when I was 10, back when 9 ounces had got you 10. Okay, when I was 10, back when 9 ounces had got you 10, and 9 times out of 10, don't pay a tension. And when there's tension in the air, nines come with extensions. So obviously it's clever with the nines and the tens. And back when 10 years of jail was the price of getting caught with 9 ounces, all of it's beautiful, all of it's super well done. But come on. And moreover, I'm not really sure of what the greater meaning is. What is the greater meaning of this 10 theme, this motif? Now maybe it has one. Someone told me in the comments, the Dissect podcast, Nicole has a good thing on this. I'll have to go listen to it. But as far as I'm concerned, this gen run is on a different level, and it needs to be studied as such. Let me tell you why. This prefix, gen, is very important, is very meaningful, okay? Gen. I want to go to one of my favorite things to study and talk about. People often ask me, Sky, what are the books that I need to own? I always say the same two. First, the autobiography of Malcolm X is told to Alex Haley, okay? Number 2, Chambers' Dictionary of Etymology. I'm not sponsored, but I'm just telling you, if you want to understand the world, if you want to understand human creation, you have to understand language and how it's created and how all these words go together. We know that Kendrick Lamar cares about etymology, even if he doesn't say it directly, and I think part of the proof is here in this run and the greater meaning of this ambiguous and important prefix of gen, G-E-N. So let's take it back. Let's take it back to Greece, right? That's where it comes from. Genos, it actually pertains to offspring, okay, like children. Kind, as in to say kinds of people, and race. Now, first of all, we need to be a little bit careful because the scientific racism that was invented in the 19th century was not invented when the term race was used. In the past, race just meant an identifiable group of people who share a common descent. I think I got that definition from Wikipedia, okay? But before race was really used to divide people up like that, they actually used a different term. Genus, G-E-N-U-S, gen, which means a group sharing qualities related to birth, related to origin, related to race, related to family. That's what it was. You would talk about people's genus, G-E-N. So it's about birth. It's about birthright. It is about similarities of birth. It is about cultural similarities shared by the circumstances of one's birth. Now, I call it ambiguous because that might just sound neutral, but it is ambiguous. Has anyone ever called you generous? Do you know what it means? Do you know how classist the English language is? I mean, most languages, actually. But the English language, just as a small example, before I even get into the gen run, this is something that drives me crazy. Philanthropy. Phil means love. Anthropy means people. A philanthropist, not you, Charlie Day, a philanthropist is somebody who loves people. Who do we call philanthropists? Billionaires who give away a fraction of their money to save on taxes. The truth is, most billionaires are misanthropists. Most billionaires hate people, okay? Hate humanity. Anyways, that's just a small example. Better examples of how our language are supremely classist and eugenicist. Eugenicist is believing that genetics has a huge role in the quality of people, of that you can determine someone's life outcomes. You can determine their intelligence, their inherent qualities just by the genes, G-E-N, that they possess. That's what a eugenicist, U-G-E-Nicist is. Don't believe me? What if I called you generous? You're so generous. Do you know what generous means? G-E-N, Urus? It means of noble birth. That's what that word means. What if I called you gentle, a kind, gentle person? Gentle means of noble family. Ah, you're being such a gentleman. How come there are no gentlemen anymore out there? Because gentlemen are men of noble birth. Noble means you are born into it. You cannot attain it. You must be born. It must be of your family lineage. These are exclusionary terms, which in the Eurocentric universe that we live in basically means in order to be generous, it is not enough to be rich. You have to be born of a race, of a lineage, of people who have land, who have power, and can pass that on. The theory being that those are the people who are magnanimous, who are kind, who are gentle, who are generous. It's obscene. It's disgusting. Now, I use these terms all the time, but it's disgusting, and it's a reminder of how classist and how hierarchical our language is, not just our society, our language is. Now, listen, part of my fascination with this, when I heard this, I got all excited because, I thank you for auditing the Always Positive New Music Review show hosted by a French professor who is a French professor who did get a doctorate in 17th century French literature from the University of California, Santa Barbara. Go Gauchos. And one of the main works that I studied was this. Le Bourgeois Gentilhomme by Molière. This is one of my probably my favorite work I've ever studied. I'm obsessed with this because of how difficult it is to understand and how much it explains these kind of hierarchical divisions. An entire 15 pages I wrote, maybe someday I'll turn it into a chapter, I don't know, I can't tell if it's good enough, was all about the title itself. For the most part, it's not even translated in English. It's been translated, 20 different versions all over the place. But this is a shock, okay? This is a shock. The term itself was designed for the 17th century audience to hear it and go, ugh, okay? Ugh, okay? It's like the billionaire beggar or something, okay? It's just like the words don't go together. You cannot be bourgeois, which means of the middle class, of the sort of working upper middle class, and be a gentleman at the same time. The whole story is about this villain named Monsieur Jourdain, who actually in modern conception is actually something of a hero because he's trying to overcome the circumstances of his birth. He is trying for social mobility in a time where social mobility is essentially treason. However you're born is however you're supposed to die. That's the hierarchical society of Louis XIV's France and what helped to keep it so powerful and so evil for so long. Apologies go to whoever pleases. So Monsieur Jourdain is constantly trying, even though he's just a merchant. He's just somebody who does trading. He's way richer than most of the noble people in his town. He's like the richest person in the play. But just because you're rich, it doesn't mean you have class. Okay? What's the difference? What's the difference between somebody who is born and whose family has had money and power for generations? The second that they're born, the second that a noble person is born, they are noble. It's just like you can't be the prince of you can't be the king of England. It doesn't matter how hard you try. That comes from birth. You cannot be gentle. You cannot be a gentleman. And part of the reason why I love that book so much is it's a theme I see in hip-hop all the time. Because by the nature of systemic racism, it is virtually impossible to be a black gentleman. To be a descendant of enslaved people, you cannot be a gentleman because the gentlemen were the people who did the owning, who did the trade, who benefited from the trade. That's who the gentlemen were. So rap is filled with this. There's a TV show in the early 2000s called From G's to Gents, which I actually use when I teach Le Bourgeois Gentilhomme because it's the same story. It's all about these guys, rap guys who consider themselves to be gangsters who are trying to be gentlemen, but it cannot happen. It might have been executive produced by Puff Daddy. Yeah. Farnsworth Bentley might have been in it. Maybe Farnsworth Bentley was a sign of trouble to come for Diddy. I don't know. But more importantly, 444 by Jay-Z is essentially an entire album dedicated to this desire to be seen as a gentleman, to be seen as rising above, as not being a kid from Marcy, but being an actual part of the highest levels of American society, of crossing these invisible yet uncrossable barriers that we still have in our society. It is not as bad as it used to be. It is not as bad as it used to be, but it's still there. The dream is this, and this is, I would say, Jay-Z's dream, that you can overcome genetics with genius. G-E-N, genius. It's a complicated prefix, everybody. Because at the same time, we have gentleman. We also have genius. because gen applies to like birth and creation as well. That's where genius comes from. It comes from gignere, or I don't know how to pronounce that in Greek at all. Please tell me in the comments. In the same way that Genesis is creation, there's like this positive side to this prefix that's not just about like family lines and lineage and nobility, but also to the artistic and the human creation process as well. Genesis, genius, gentrification, it all goes together. It's all part of the same complicated stew, and that's what's in this verse by Kendrick Lamar. Now, for the most part, though, it's negative, right? Obviously, okay. Provided that you don't believe in rigid hierarchy based on race, based on race and class, provided you don't think that's a good thing, it's mostly negative. So why does he do it? Why is he using these words? I got a bird over there. Why is he using these words? Why is he supporting this terminology? Well, I think what he's doing is he's reclaiming it. He's flipping it. It's a thing that he does quite often. He's reclaiming it. Just like the title itself, Chains and Whips, is reclaiming the idea of enslaved people being whipped and in chains. It's literally reversed. Whips and chains is how we always say it. We don't say chains and whips. They're flipping it. It's a turn. Don't get me on the etymology of the word turn. That's a whole nother thing. He likes to flip racism, flip these hierarchies. I think he's taking the tools of oppression of Black Americans and Africans more broadly and using it to display Black excellence and creativity and genius. He is literally overcoming the systemic inequality of genetics through his genius. I think he's making the claim that hip-hop is his birthright, that he is a nobleman of hip-hop through his birth and through the birth of what he's lived through and what he has seen, that this is his culture. And again, this is coming from a dude. Setting up this video, I probably got a sunburn and my arm was only in the sun for like 3 minutes, okay? You don't want me talking about Black excellence, but I have to talk about it sometimes because I think it's part of what we're talking about here, okay? But so you don't want me talking about ADOS or foundational Black Americans or anything like that. But I don't think it's explicitly about that. I don't think it's explicitly saying that, okay, so Drake is Canadian, so he can't have this. I don't think it's that simple. I think it's about connecting and emphasizing the primacy. By that, I mean the primal, the number one, like maintaining the primacy of Black Americans in hip-hop as a way to recenter the art of hip-hop on the Black American experience. Because it always comes from Black America and always has been about Black America, but ever since it attained popularity, ever since the party started that he's been trying to kill so badly, it is drifting away to being not about that experience. And so I think he is staking his birth claim as being born in Compton in 1987. That it's his, it's not mine. Being born in Boston in 1977 and growing up in the suburbs, it's not mine. It's not my birthright. I'll never be a G. I'll never be hip hop. I say that and people say, "Oh, Sky, we love you." I'm glad you love me. That's great, but I'll never be hip hop. It's not in my genetics. Okay, I will be hip hop as soon as Monsieur Jourdain will be a gentleman, and that's the way it should be. That is the way it should be. White people shouldn't have everything. There are things we shouldn't have. Now, great, I can participate, I can talk about, I can share, I can use whatever it is that I have to discuss. You know, I can contribute, but I cannot possess. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's what this is saying. I think this is talking about that. And this is not the first time Kendrick has done this. Obviously, Blacker the Berry talks a lot about blackness, but just genetics itself, what's one of his biggest hits? I'll give you a hint. It starts with the words, I got. What has he got? He's got loyalty. He's got royalty. Where is that loyalty? Where is that royalty, you ask? It's inside his DNA. He's talking about genetics. Quarter piece got war and peace inside my DNA. I got power, poison, pain, and joy inside my DNA. I got hustle, though, ambition, flow inside my DNA. I was born like this. Born, Born. Born. It's in his DNA. It's not something he acquired. It's not something he attained. It's not something he earned. It's something he was born with by the facts of his birth, the same way that King George or Charles or whatever the hell that weirdo in England is, or whoever, King Charles was born with it. Kendrick Lamar was born like this, since one like this, immaculate conception, I transform like this, perform like this. The whole song is filled with these weird terms, eugenicist terms, obsession with genetics and the importance of eugenics. He's taking them and he's flipping them to be positive for Black Americans and for people of African descent in general who have been so insanely, consistently destroyed by systemic racism that believes in the inferiority of certain genes. He is talking about their greatness. He uses terms like my pedigree, don't tolerate the front. This is my heritage. I'm inheriting. My DNA is not for imitation. It's all in there, and it all leads up to this song. In my opinion, DNA and this verse off Chains and Whips are just a straight line. They're just connected. It's cute. It's cute that nostalgia is over here, and it is mostly about his father, so I think you could make a good case they're connected too. But to me, the straight line is between DNA and this verse. So let's get to the Gen line. Now, first of all, just how much do we love this man? How much do we love this MC? Notice how right before it starts, he uses the term Gemini. Two-time Gemini with the genocide. So Gemini is close to Gen. And he's going to end the run all the way down here. You see I put them in blue with Jenga. So Gem and Gen with a J are close. So it's like he starts off and he ends with almosts. Almost. The same way that he uses the term 4.5 to end the 9 and 10 run, so that you have like 10 is a very complete number. You know, we have 10 fingers, 10 toes. We live in a very sort of 10-centered existence just because of human biology. So when he throws on the half to take you out of the 10 run, it has that kind of like unsettling effect that's connected to but taking you from the 10 run. So two-time Gemini with the genocide. Bam, right off the bat, he starts off with the nastiest Gen word, genocide, a term that was coined in 1944 to describe the Holocaust, to describe the actions am I able to say all these words without getting demonetized? You know who I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. The massive death. So side is to kill. Okay, I'm really not getting demonetized now. Smash like, bucket, subscribe, AVA, share this all around. You know, so that's why homicide is to ill a person, regicide is to a king, patricide is to a dad, filicide is to a son, right? These are all words, something aside. So Gen is the people, is the race. So he starts off with the most negative term, genocide. I'm generous. However you want it, I'll be the gentle kind. So he's using this terminology, this ambiguous terminology, talking about being generous and gentle. Gentlemen and gangstas connect, the agenda of mine. You will notice on my little list here, I do not include the agenda of mine because it's not connected thematically. Agenda has to do with a different Greek word that just means to do, to act. So I'm not really there. I'm more interested in genocide, generous, gentle, gentleman. And then we get to the absolute centerpiece of this whole song, in my opinion, of this whole verse. Move, derogatory term for people of African descent that starts with N. Move n's up out of here. This shit get gentrified. Gentrified. Let's take a second. What does gentrified mean? Well, gentry means like the landed gentry. Gentry, G-E-N, refers to nobility, people who have money, people who have land from birth, people who have systemic power. Gentry. Ification. So it is taking something and making it for the gentry. Now, this term, I've looked it up. Apparently, it was in some use in like the 40s and 50s in England. It really rose to popularity in the late 70s in America, and it's what happens all over the country. You have places where people want to live. The rent goes up, the prices go up, and then they start spreading out from the rich areas, and they start making their incursions into poorer areas. This tends to disproportionately affect non-white people and people of the lower class, right? Just it makes sense because you take, for example, Brooklyn or Queens or Harlem, or basically anywhere in New York City that is not Manhattan, you see how Whole Foods, how you start to see how Starbucks, you start to see how luxury condominiums just start spreading out and spreading out and spreading out. And it just hurts. For the most part, it has historically really hurt black people and black communities. It really hurts. It really hurts because what they used to have, what they used to be able to afford to live close to the city, to live close to where they work, to live close to where they live, to live close to where their family was, the rents keep going up and people like me keep moving in. And I'm legitimately apologizing to the good people of Oakland. I didn't know what I was doing when I agreed to pay $1,300 in rent for that shitty apartment in Temescal. I didn't know that Temescal was like basically a term that existed but was popularized by real estate agents to charge more money in that part of town. I didn't know I was pushing out the great Eritrean and Ethiopian descendant people who largely lived in that area. I didn't know. I didn't know that I was going to be moving in. And when I moved in and people like me moved in, there's now an apothecary in Temescal and there's no longer that awesome deli. Okay? Like a lot of my favorite Ethiopian restaurants are no longer there anymore, replaced by artisanal coffee places. Matcha, is that the thing you kids say? So that's gentrification. Gentrification is sort of a form of gatekeeping, but it's like gatekeeping from inside. What do you call it when you gatekeep by going into a place and kicking them out and then not letting them back in? Oh, colonialism. It's colonialism. Gentrification is financial, internal colonialism. That's how it is. So what is he saying in this line? Move-ins up out of here, because traditionally gentrification always hurts people with less means, with less money, due to systemic racism. It is very, very common that gentrification means people of African descent, people of Hispanic descent, getting moved out of a place. So move-ins up out of here, this shit get gentrified. He's doing the gentrification. He's doing, essentially, reverse colonialism in this line. He's flipping it. He's twisting it. He's flipping it. He's twisting it. This shit get gentrified. He is gentrifying. He is cleaning up hip-hop. There have been too many people who moved in, who pushed out everybody else, whether it's Travis Scott or whether it's Drake or whether it's Jack Harlow, who knows? But there's too many people who have ruined the neighborhood and they are gentrifying it, essentially reclaiming it from the colonizers. Do you see why he had to use the word gentrification? Do you see why it has to be connected to gentle and generous and genes? It's genius. Gen. And do you know what I realized while I was doing the video? That, of course, it's like GNX as well, right? Gen is just like GNX. And I was really hesitant because I don't really think that he's talking about Generation X with GNX, but maybe he is. It's because he happens to be the definition of a millennial born in 1987, but maybe he's talking about his old soul, or maybe he's just talking about the fact that Generation X, the X sort of applies to like the unknown, like what is it, who are they? It wasn't actually supposed to be about the alphabet. It's like, who are they, what are they doing? Maybe that's the world that he grew up in, because he grew up in, he was an 80s baby, he was a child of Ronald Reagan, right? So maybe that's that. I don't know. Heavy genes like Genovese. So I'm including genes, obviously, in here in the gen run. I'm not going to include Genovese So I guess that's maybe the 15th one. I'm not going to include Genovese because that just applies to people from Genoa in Italy, in particular the Genovese crime family, which is what he's talking about here. So it's not quite the same thing. I looked it up, and the etymology of the word Genoa does not tie into gen in Greek. I drop your pentagon and show up at your gender reveal and tell them give me mine. Your gender reveal. Gender, obviously, pertains to birth, pertains to what you are at birth, although, of course, gender is not biological. Sex is biological. Gender is not. It's okay. We're learning these things as we go along. That's why societies evolve. That's why we stop believing in goofy-ass things like nobility and monarchy. I'm looking at you, England. And show up at your gender reveal, and I tell them give me mine. I I am the general, where's my gin and juice? I am also not including general. So that's three things I'm not including. Agenda, Genovese, and general. It works for like the cleverness and the sound, the craft of this verse, but it does not work for the symbolism I'm trying to get at. Then it starts to flip on the back half. We start to get to more positive. Okay, because general itself, it does have to do with people. The gen of general does have to do with people, but it doesn't quite have to do the same thing with birthright, which is what the rest of these things are kind of tied into. And obviously it's just a killer line to sun you at a gender reveal. It's hilarious, right? He's playing, he's having fun while being precise. Every song in the book of Genesis lets the sonic boom. The book of Genesis. So he's tying it together with all the religious stuff that I already talked about in my full-length video, my full-length live stream about that, right? The book of Genesis, the first book of the Bible. But he's kind of going backwards because he doesn't start there. He kind of ends the verse on this theme of Genesis. Genesis, which goes back to origin, creation, generation, from gignesthai, to be born, related to genos, race, birth, descent, which derivatives from procreation, family, and tribal groups. Okay, all this stuff is in Chambers' Dictionary of Etymology. So from the book of Genesis, because we're all from, right? Race is an illusion, right? We're all human beings. Do you know how many breeds of dog there are? 1. Dog. What kind of dog is that? It's a mutt. We're all mutts. All human beings are mutts. We're all just human beings. Race is an illusion. It's a powerful illusion, but it's an illusion. It's a societal creation, like gender. Okay. So, every book, every song, I let the sonics boom. Now, this is also very clearly tying in to the song Nostalgia, where it has the 10 run, but also he talks about his Sega Genesis being stolen by crackheads who are trying to sell it to make money to buy crack, right? So he is tying these things together to reward you for paying attention to the fact that he's worked with Pusha T before and he's done a verse. And if you've been with him, then you know that. If you're like me and it's 2013 and you haven't really been paying attention to rap for like 10 years and you're about to go see the Yeezus tour, and so you start to see, hey, what's going on? And you end up finding a Kendrick Lamar song, and then you go, oh, Pusha T is still working, and you go on LimeWire and you download Nostalgia and you listen to it all the time at the YMCA down the street, and then you get really into it and you're like, I guess rap is still good, right? You might have that nostalgia for that song. If you're connected, you remember he's talking about the Sega Genesis. And it's also like this, like the Sega Genesis itself, this time is the birth of the struggle that would lead to his brilliance and his art. Let the sonics boom. Okay, let the sonics boom. So it's like the sonic boom, okay? That's the sonic boom, like the explosion of the universe, right? I mean, that's the Big Bang, which is not in the Bible, but it's sort of in the Bible, because if you you can read the book of Genesis as being a parable about the Big Bang, because in the beginning there was nothing, right? There was just, there had to be something, something had to start, we had to have this sonic boom. And also, come on, y'all, he's playing Street Fighter 2. Sonic boom. What was it, Guile? It's Guile, right? He does the sonic boom. That's what you play on your Genesis. That's what I played on my Genesis. Want the tea on me? Well, here's the ginger root. Okay, so ginger is like that, but it's... is it like that? It's like a gen, but it's not. It's not actually tied into gen. I generate residuals. Bitch, get off my genitals. Generate is absolutely a part of this. It's what's interesting because generate means to create, but it also means to birth. So I generate residuals, get off my genitals, much like gender. Is this upside down? It is upside down, Sky. Much like, so where are we now? Generate genitals. They said I couldn't reach Gen Z. You fucking dickheads. This feels like I think you should leave line. Okay? So now we're at Gen Z, which is short for generation, which obviously has to do with procreation, birth, race. Generation Z. And it's all tied in because genitals are what are used to create life. That's how you generate life. With your genitals, which then makes the next generation. And he says, you fucking dickheads, because a dickhead is a part of a genital. It's true. Half the genitals in this whole world have a dickhead. So think about that next time you call someone a dickhead. I love how direct this line is, how clever it is. You must be full of that ginseng. Here comes the jinx. Yeah, so ginseng and ginger have a different sense, and jinx as well. Like he's playing around. He's taking us out of this verse by adding little things that are similar but not quite there. Ain't genetics been synthetic? Screaming they, and final, genius. Screaming they, genius. A finger waved, they all fall. Is Jenga. Interestingly, Jenga is a word that was created, not created, it was a word that was used and was found to make the game Jenga, which apparently ties into a Swahili word for to build, which is very different than all of these gen words, because gen words are about being born. So what does that mean? It means we start with genocide and we end with genius. That's what that means. And I want to show you something because it's interesting. If you go into this Chambers book of etymology, which I bought at the now departed Borders in Goleta, California, shout out, okay? Look right here. I'm not sure if you can see this. But right here, we have genius and then genocide. They're right next to each other in the dictionary of etymology. Now, I don't think he's sitting there with the dictionary of etymology. I'm not being that goofy. But this is interesting because alphabetically, we go from the greatest gen word, genius, human creation, things that overcome birth. It is because of Kendrick's genius that he can outperform the systemic inequalities of his birth. And the genocide, the destruction of a race, that's the worst usage of the term gen. So instead of going from genius to genocide, he's going from genocide to genius, opening up on a moment of hope. And I don't know, it's pretty amazing because we're all over the place in this little realm of these gen words where he's reclaiming it, he's playing with it, he is kicking, he is gentrifying, he is reverse gentrifying, he is using his genius. It's all here in these 13 to 16 gen runs, not counting the gins, not counting the gens with a J. So anyways, these are my Patreons. I didn't shout them out last night. They give me money so that I can afford to do goofy ass stuff like this. I can go to concerts and stuff, and they really help me out. I got 4 kids now. You want to join my Patreon? That's great, because 4 kids is too many. And it's great. I love having 4 kids, but my food bill is crazy. And sometimes these folks actually help to buy me diapers and stuff. So you can join them, patreon.com. Or if you don't want that, you can be one of my super subscribers right here on YouTube. You can just join up there, So anyways, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this. Good. The other video was like an hour and a half. So I hope you enjoyed it. Tell me what you think in the comments. It's genius. My hope is that for the rest of your life, you are burdened with what I'm burdened with, the knowledge that the term generous and gentle are the same words that gave us genocide, because the belief that only certain people can be born with the capacity to be gentle is what leads to the belief that people who do not have that capacity, or who we do not perceive to have that capacity, should be removed. That's a bummer of a way to end a video, Sky. How am I supposed to earn likes and subscribes with that? All right, till next time, there's the camera.